Hey, I'm Rusty.
And I'm Heather.
And we're the Bryants, and this is the Redeemed Marriage Podcast.
We are here to encourage healthy marriages, strengthen wounded marriages, and begin the process of restoration to broken marriages.
We aren't licensed counselors, but we are a redeemed couple that loves the Lord and wants to help you journey through this messy, challenging, and fun part of life called marriage. Welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. I love just introducing this and looking over at you, and you just always give me this big old grin.
Because you're amazing.
And I don't know if it's because you're making fun of me or...
Nope.
I just don't know what it is.
I never know if you're going to let me say, and Heather.
Go ahead, introduce us real quick. Hurry, go.
I'm Heather, and that's Rusty.
That's Rusty.
See, that's why you don't let me intro.
Hey, we have a light mood about us because we're going to do something a little bit light today and a little bit different. So we were looking over our recent survey and all of the different things that people mentioned and talked about or asked for us to have as topics. And so many of them are like deep and heavy and that's okay. I mean, that's what people want to hear and want to know about. And so we kind of said, well, we just need to start from the top and kind of make our list and just go through and just start answering these. And we answer a lot of them every week because a lot of them are very similar. And so we thought, well, before we dive into that, why don't we do something a little bit more, let's call it up close and personal.
Yeah.
And the reason why this came about is because I was listening to a podcast this week, and it was a marriage podcast. They had a couple on as guests, and the couple basically just told their story, and I was so interested, like, to hear everything, like when they started dating, and through college, and how they met and all that kind of stuff. And I just found myself being very interested. And when they finished, I was like, I know these people. Yeah. And then I started thinking about the different podcasts that I listen to. And again, some of these have been going on for a while, and maybe they talk about it in other episodes. But so many of them, I'm like, I'm sitting here taking marriage advice from people, and I don't know who they are. Like, I don't know why they have the right to tell me marriage advice. And so it just got me thinking. I was like, maybe there's people out there, because we've gotten so many new listeners really in the past month or so. Yeah. And we know that there are people all over the world that listen to us. And so many of them have no idea who we are. Yeah. And so I just thought it would be kind of fun to just kind of take a walk back through memory lane and really just tell who we are and where our story sort of changed to a place where we now are in this position to where we're like, okay, we need to be about giving hope to people's marriages. Yeah. So my hope is that during this episode, that just it gives people a little bit more of an invitation into our story, into who we are, and that they'll feel a little more comfortable with who we are. And then because of that, they can go, okay, well, it all makes sense of why they're doing what they're doing.
Sure.
So here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
All righty. So a lot of times I saw this week on social media, and it said, where did you and your spouse meet? Oh, my goodness. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, when in the Bible, when God just says, I am, that's sort of how I feel about when people say, how'd y'all meet? I just go,
let there be light.
I just am like, well, in the beginning.
That's
because honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Because we, quote, knew each other before we knew each other. Like, we've just been, like, so we were in the nursery together.
Yeah, and that's it. So people are going to be like, whoa, this is crazy. All right, so we live in Mississippi. We live in a small town. And I say small town. It's a suburb. And so my family moved here when I was 3 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Your family moved here
when I was 18
months old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less than a year older
Mm-hmm.
than you.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in the same grade.
Mm-mm.
But surely we were
same grade. That was a while back.
we're not in the same grade right now. We've never been in the same grade. But, I'm assuming that somewhere along the way we were like in the church. The reason why we keep going to church, why we're saying church, is because your dad came here from Kentucky as the minister of music at our church.
Yep.
My family was already very involved in the church because we've been there a little bit longer than before y'all got there. And so that's kind of where we ran into each other all the time.
Yeah.
I'm assuming I probably stole your toys. You stole my toys.
Absolutely.
We don't know. We really don't know. But the other crazy thing is, we lived right down the street from people are out there. People are out there going,
they're making
this
this
is
up.
bull. We lived down the street from each other.
Yeah.
From the time I was 3 months old and you were 18 months old, actually. Well, I don't know where it overlaps. But we lived in the same neighborhood, literally walking distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying about 8 to 10 houses away, probably. Something like that. Around the corner. Just around the corner. Oh my goodness!
I know your mom and them.
Yep. So why don't you tell them? At what point? I mean, were we friends?
No, because you played with your people on your street, and I played with my people, and every now and then we'd run into each other at the crawdad hole.
Yeah, you were with the hoodlums. That's probably
why.
I
was not. Listen, my friends may be listening to this.
Well,
yeah, we just didn't run in the same circles. You were a year older, and I know that doesn't seem like much, but when you're little kids, it is. And because you started school first, and I still, so we just didn't have the same friends.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying here is I don't really remember us being friends.
Not until the youth group.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where...
Which is just weird because, we went to a big church. It's not the church we go to now, but the church that we were when we were growing up. It was a big church.
Yeah.
But not so big that we wouldn't have. But when you go to Sunday school, you go with the second grade class. And so we just weren't ever in the same class.
Well, here's the other part that makes this a little bit weird. So I developed a friendship and a relationship with your dad as a kid. I was a kid, but he started collecting basketball cards, and I collected baseball cards. And I'm talking about, I was like 10, 11, 12 years old during this time. So pretty young kid. But he, being my minister of music, and our families were friends, and he would take me to baseball card shows and the flea market, and he wanted my advice for which cards he should buy. And we hung out, and so I would come to your house and look at baseball cards and stuff. And I have no idea if I ever even knew you were there or if you knew I was there.
You didn't know I existed. But we ran in different friend circles,
too. We did. Yeah. So
we don't have to talk about that, though.
So when we got in junior high, that was even kind of weird because your dad would pick me up to take me to school, and you didn't want to ride with us.
Nope. I chose to ride to school with my mom because she was a teacher. I left 30 minutes earlier to ride with my mom because I didn't want to ride with you. You pinch rolled your jeans.
That's
for far too long.
That's probably back in style. It actually is. I saw somebody the other day, and I took a picture of it and sent it to you, and I said, "Look, they're doing it again. Pinch roll jeans are back in style.
Pinch roll jeans were in style. You just carried it a little far.
You know what? The worship pastors these days.
And I'm just going to be honest. I was really I was a cheerleader. I played basketball. I just thought that was my jam. I couldn't be with someone who was hanging out with my dad collecting cards.
So you were really into being popular.
Yeah, I was. I'm sorry.
And I just didn't care. Not that I was unfortunate. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And I was really, really, even at that young age, I mean, moving into junior high especially, I was really, really into the youth group at our church. And you came because you had to, because your dad was on staff. And so as we made it through junior high, we probably ran into each other a good bit more because we went on the same youth trips and stuff, but there was never, we didn't like each other.
I mean, we didn't dislike each other.
No. I mean, we would have said that we were friends.
Sure.
But I didn't. Yeah.
You didn't have eyes for me.
I wasn't
didn't
attracted
have eyes
to
for
you. You weren't attracted to me. And so that sort of changed, obviously. I mean, I'm assuming that changed. So that changed when we were just getting into high school. So my 10th grade year, your 9th grade year, and we still were not in the same circles at all. But we would do some youth group stuff together. And the way I remember it is I started thinking, hey, might be kind of cool to go out with her. I kind of like her. She's kind of pretty, all that kind of stuff. And so we sort of, it was at, who knows if we've ever even really talked about this part of it.
Big break.
No, before Big Break.
Before Big
So
Break.
before that, we were over at our youth ministers.
Oh, that's right.
He and his wife, we were at their house, and it was some sort of a party of some sort, late at night kind of a thing. You were actually dating somebody at the time. And I was sort of flirting, have no idea if you were or not, but I ended up we were talking to the youth minister's wife. We wound up back in their room with her, and we were talking to her. There was a bunch of people, but I ended up just like you were laying down, and I started playing with your hair, which to this day she still asks for me to do that. So I guess it was a good thing. But we did that, and then I was like, okay, I think I like this girl. Problem was you were dating somebody. And so my parents planned a surprise birthday party for me. And for some reason, they invited you, which is weird because we weren't really friends, but you were invited. But you showed up with the dude. You showed up with the boyfriend. And I just remember because that was right after that. I was like, no way. She came, but she brought her boyfriend. So then we went on the youth trip.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks later, and during spring break. And the part I remember about that is you made a list. So I feel like, wasn't it Ross and Rachel on Friends, and Ross made a list? You made a list, and it was my list and this boyfriend, and you were going to decide on that trip who was better for you. Did I win?
You have a much better memory than I do, by the way.
You're like, I just got tired of this dude and went to this.
Be nice.
I know. So we went out March the 20th, 1990. Do you understand how long ago that was?
And I was in 9th grade, and you were in 10th.
And I was in 10th grade.
Almost the end of 9th and 10th.
So that was like 32 years ago.
That's nuts.
So we went out for the first time, and we were high school sweethearts.
Yeah, we were.
We dated all through high school, 10th grade, 11th grade, your 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th. And then I went to college, and I went to a local college. I did live on campus, but that was hard.
Yeah.
Because I was a freshman in college, and you were still in high school. Whew, that's tough.
It was.
So we survived.
Yeah.
And then you joined me at college. And so we dated for the next 3 years of college, I guess, because we got engaged. And, man, this part's crazy because I'm like, what were we thinking? We were so young. So I graduated, and you still had a year of school left. I was 22. You were 21.
And, like, when we talk about that with people, we're like, don't do it.
Yes. I mean, we do.
It was, we were too young.
Too young.
Too young.
man. But I mean, you know,
it worked out for us. But
Yeah.
looking back, we're like, ooh, yeah.
but we had dated for 7
Yeah,
years.
we did. To be fair.
And so all through this, you know, we were really, I mean, we were a good couple.
We were.
Like we had our problems and our issues. But that's the thing. You were asking before we started this, is there something we're going to try to teach through this, or I was like, kind of. We're just inviting people into our story, but also just the fact that we were very normal.
Sure.
And probably even the way that we were not normal was that we were like a good couple.
Sure.
I mean, and
we were trying to honor God with our relationship, and probably, to be honest, more than that, honor our parents because they had taught us like how to do relationships and what it meant, and one man, one woman for life. And, you know, we were just trying to be honoring in that.
Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the things that when you asked, is there like a lesson to this? Well, yeah, I mean, part of it is just that, you know, it's not like we were bringing a bunch of weird baggage and weird stuff, you know, into our marriage. I mean, it was a healthy, healthy start.
And we both came from
strong
Christian homes where both, you know, we had both parents. There was no, you know, divorce and not that those things are bad, but it's not like when we entered into our story, like I'll never forget having to fill out all of those forms for our marriage intensive, and they're asking all these questions like, you know, were you abused? Did you come from a divorced home? Did you? And I'm like, no.
Alcohol.
Like,
I mean,
we
everything.
just we had a very normal, I would say better than normal circumstance coming into our marriage.
And not only that, but when I was 14 years old, I felt God calling me into the ministry. And you knew that all along. And so, I mean, even in college, I was a Christian studies major because I knew that the steps were go to college, get a degree, go to seminary, start working at a church.
Yeah.
That was the plan. And you were very much on board with being
a youth minister's wife, I thought.
Yeah, just being there by my side with that.
Sure.
So that was actually what happened. I worked all through college at our church, and I worked in the youth ministry and the activities ministry, and I was just getting my feet wet, learning how to do ministry. And you graduated. Once you graduated, we moved. And I started at my first church, and it was a tiny little church,
and we lived in a cinder block house.
Yes, made
the memories.
I literally, I don't know if you remember this. Like you said, I do have a better memory, but we lived in this house. They gave us a place to live, and I was commuting to seminary 4 days a week, and I was getting paid $100 a week. $400 a month to be the youth minister at this church, but they gave us the house, which was,
and there was
we
that
could do a
sweet
whole
man.
entire we could on an episode on the cinder block house.
Can I just tell my favorite part?
Sure.
Besides the fact that there was mold growing in the back of the house, and we couldn't use a printer because the paper
got wet.
Yeah. But there's two favorite parts. Please do the noise of the heater. We
just laid in bed
listening to the heater that was all the
sounded like somebody was just letting her rip all night long.
That was funny. And then we would Rusty would get in the shower, and he would hurry to take a shower, and I would have to wait at least 30 minutes to get into the shower, not for the water to get hot again, but for the water to go down, drain in the tub.
Oh no, that's not even the best story. I mean, we're really letting these people into our life.
We are.
Remember when I bent down to put Christmas decorations on the Christmas tree ornaments, and I got up and my knees in my pants were wet because the the house was just damp all the time.
Yeah, and when you flush the potty, toilet paper would come up at the street.
No, in the parking lot of the church. Oh my goodness. What? See, life. Like we lived life. So during that time, I was getting my seminary degree. You started teaching at your first. You were an elementary education major. Started teaching. A great experience at a little country school, and it was so much fun. But crazy enough, during that year, I had an opportunity and a calling to start my own ministry. And it was, believe it or not, it was through using soccer to share the gospel with people. And so as a I thought about this the other day. I was 24 years old when I became the executive director of Bria Soccer Ministries, and I still hold that title today.
You do.
24 years later.
Yeah.
So, but we were just partners, and that was what was so great about it, is that you were just like, wherever God leads you, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to be by your side. And so we were able to move back home, started our ministry. You started teaching, and then the little ones came along. So,
and that was a journey. Because we actually lost 2 babies before we had our first child, and it took us 3 years to get him. We even thought we were gonna be looking at adoption, and but then God had a different plan.
Yep.
So 2 boys later, and we had our family.
2 boys later. So,
and I even begged you for a third. You remember? I was like, "Come on, let's have a third." I grew up with 2 kids. You grew up with 2 kids. Let's just have one more. And you said, "I will have another one if you can guarantee me that it'll be another boy."
Yep.
It was so
Girl
scared
me to death. Still
and
do.
I was like, well, I cannot guarantee you that. So we just decided to keep our 2 boys and wouldn't change it for the world.
And so during that time, those early years, you had the opportunity to stay home with them, which, looking back on it, that was a lot of stress for us because we just didn't make a lot of money. The ministry that I'm in is a faith-based ministry that's support raising still to this day. So we raise our own support. And for me to do that and you not have a job, that was hard.
It was. It was.
And so, but for 10 years, that's how it was us. And
I did some part-time jobs to, kind of supplement, especially when the boys started like Mother's Morning Out or preschool and things like that. So I didn't just stay home. I had some little odd jobs that I did and that helped. But it was, and I think it was more stressful than we thought it. Like we admitted, it just was a little hard on our marriage.
Yeah, and then through all of that, we remained very active and faithful to our church family. Your dad stayed on as minister of music through all of that. My dad actually was on staff for a while at the same church, which again, all of that is like people are like, really? Wow. Yeah. But we taught Sunday school. We led in children's ministry. We led worship. I was a deacon at the church, so I was serving even outside of my ministry. We were serving together, and it was like life is good. Yeah. And hard
until it wasn't.
Yeah, until it wasn't. And like that's the part I guess that I just want people to hear is that anybody can struggle in their marriage.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I when you were saying, things were good, things were great, like you almost expect somebody to say things were so good on the outside, but on the inside we were just, behind closed doors. But that wasn't it either.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't it either. Like things were just normal.
Yeah, and I know that I've shared this before, but part of the reason why we wanted to kind of share our story and put it all together in this one episode is because people, go back and listen to different episodes, but it's the ones that catch their attention. Like it's a topic that catches their attention. But if people are faithful listeners, they're going to listen to this one, and somewhere along the way, they may have heard me say, you had an affair at 15 years into our marriage. And the day we went to counseling for the first time, the counselor was trying to put us back into a happy place because I was spitting mad.
Sure.
You were in this dark place. And he said, let's think back. Think back to the best year of your marriage. And I remember saying, I thought year 15 was. And that's how completely blown away. Now, we talk about this too. We can look back and we can put pieces together and we can go, man, there was some things that were not healthy in our marriage. But this is just because we want you to know, first of all, it can happen to anybody. And not to scare you,
That's right.
but to help you to say, we've got to continue to work on our marriage. We've got to put boundaries up. We've got, because it can happen to anybody. And we want you to be aware and on guard. And also, because if you are in a struggle, if your marriage is struggling right now, you don't have to be like, well, we're the only ones. I mean, something must be wrong with us.
Sure.
Well, it happened, and it happened to us. And so if you're not familiar with that part of our story, start at season 2. And I think we started that in September or October of last year. But you can go starting with Believing the Lies of the Enemy. And just listen to our entire journey through infidelity.
Sure.
And because it happened, it was a period of about 3 months that, man, we were just, you were just in a dark place, and I wasn't aware of it. And so then the confession happened in August of 2011 when you told me. And that's what changed everything, and that's where it started. And so we started our journey of healing and restoration and all the things that most of you are asking us about all the time. How do you forgive? How do you start restoring? How do you trust again? And that's why, when we want you to know our story and where we're coming from, that's it, because we want you to see, the before and then the crisis happened, and then we started moving from there. And because of that, the stuff that we learned really over for sure the next year, but now a decade.
That's right.
I mean, it's the stuff that we have put into place and worked in our marriage and learned from. We want other people to hear that you have hope. Now, our story, my goodness, 5 years later, we walked through cancer.
That's right.
It's like, what in the world? People, I'm sure.
I got a little nervous around the 10-year mark thinking something else is coming. Boy, we almost made it to 11 now.
Oh, my goodness. Let's just keep on rolling. But I think that, for people to understand our story and why, if you go back and listen to our very first episode, I think it's called Our Passion. And it just, it's a very short episode, but it just kind of tells why we're so passionate about marriage ministry. But to be honest, what you've just heard for the last 27 minutes, that's why we're passionate about marriage, is because we fell into a trap, and it put us in a position that almost ruined our marriage. But we were willing and able to fight through it, learn from what was going on, and really sit in it to the point where it completely changed our marriage. And so for the last 10 years, we've just been working towards that, and also really any chance we have, we want to help people.
Yeah. And we're so very passionate, and there was, everything in that episode that you're talking about is truth about why we're doing what we're doing. But even over the last 6 months since we've shared our story, like the comments and the questions and the people reaching out asking for prayer, like our prayer list is unbelievable, and that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Like that's why we're doing it, and it almost fuels my fire. Like God uses that to fuel my fire, and why this is so important, and why, because there's not many people that talk about it out there. And I just, and it's so funny because when you ask, we're going to kind of go back, it's that dread of, walking through it again. And I know we didn't do any details or, that's all in our episodes about our story. but it's just, I mean, it doesn't make it easier.
Mm.
And so I know, I mean, we've been talking about it for years and it's still hard. So I know that there are people out there that just have nowhere to turn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing it, is to give people hope.
Yeah. Well, I guess we never dreamed, you know, when we were in 10th grade and 9th grade and I was playing with your hair at our youth minister's house, that we would be sitting here doing a podcast on marriage because of the massive mistakes that happened in our marriage. But, you know, people sometimes probably wonder, well, why are y'all willing to share? Well, for us, it was very public. We've mentioned this in one of our episodes. You can go back and listen to that. It was very public. And, you know, not by choice. It was just public. And because of that, we believe that God just gave us a platform. And
that's right.
We're, you know, what Kylie said a couple of weeks ago when we interviewed her, God don't waste a drop.
That's right.
And that's the way we feel about it. God don't waste a drop of, you know, our pain.
Our pain. Absolutely.
And he's not, and he hasn't done that. He's not wasting it. And so we love being able to share. We love being able to invite you into our story. And so I know this was a little bit different, a little bit lighter, but I hope that you just now have a little bit better picture of who we are. And maybe you feel like you know us a little bit better.
Sure.
Maybe you feel like you can trust us a little bit more because we're just normal people.
Just like you guys.
Yeah, and so we would love to hear from you. And some of you have probably been scared to reach out, and we don't want you to be scared. That's part of why we wanted to be really up close and personal with this episode, because we just want you to feel comfortable to come to us, ask us questions, tell us how we can pray for you. We want to be a part of your story and part of your healing story. So we're just glad that we're able to do this with you every week and be able to share some with you. And so as we're wrapping up, please take a moment to give us an honest rating and review, because we've seen how much that helps us to get in front of more and more listeners. And we love the fact that more and more people can hear a story of hope and that something can bring hope to their marriage. So thank you for doing that and for honoring us by doing that. We appreciate it. And until next time, sign off for us, Heather.
We'll see you next week.